Hey everybody, Brian Goulet here of GouletPens.com, and I'm very honored to be sitting here in the Nock Co HQ with Brad, Dowdy, and Jeff Bruckwicki. Guys, thanks so much. This is an honor to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, this is pretty cool that you made the trip not only to the pen show, but wanted to hang out with us here at the shop.
Absolutely. So I'm here at the Atlanta Pen Show. These guys are based out of Atlanta, and I just could not help but seizing the opportunity to get some time. And they were nice enough to get up early on a Sunday morning and host me here so that we could shoot this video for you guys. So before we get into it, for those who don't already know about Nock and know each of who you are, Brad, if you could start, just kind of give us a little bit of background about who you are.
Yeah, I'm Brad Dowdy. I started a blog about 8 years ago called The Pen Addict. It's at penaddict.com, and I write about pens, and I started writing about pens. It was kind of a very odd thing to do, I felt at the time, and it's kind of grown into a bigger thing these days. So I'm full-time writing The Pen Addict. I obviously co-own Nock with Jeff, and we make pen cases. So I'm a writer, blogger, blog about pens, and make pen cases.
Jeff?
My name's Jeff Bruckwicki, and I have been making soft goods for almost 10 years now. And it was just a weird on-the-whim thing that Brad and I met, and now we're here.
Awesome. So can you guys tell me a little bit about Nock and how you got started?
Yeah, so when I was writing the blog, people always, once it got to a certain level of popularity, people start emailing you with like random questions. They're not just asking you about pens, they're asking you, why don't you make your own pen? Something like that. Why don't you make something that's, for the pen addict or something like that? And I was like, honestly, I really don't want to make a pen. There's too many people doing that. I really don't have a great enough idea, honestly. I didn't think I could differentiate myself in the pen world. And so I kind of left it at that. And then I get an email one day from a guy, not Jeff, but a guy who knew Jeff that read my blog. Like Jeff had no clue about the pens, didn't know this stuff, didn't know I existed, didn't know the Pen Addict existed, but a guy that worked with him did. And he said, you need to make this guy a pen case because it looks like his style would be like something you could like deliver on. So I'm talking to him and I get a package in the mail and it's this great nylon Velcro rolled up pen case. I'm like, I really like this. And then we started talking about are certain things possible in what I like in a product because I wasn't finding that on the market. And Jeff and I threw some designs back and forth, threw some emails back and forth, decided to meet in person. Then all of a sudden we have a pen case company.
That's awesome.
It's kind of crazy.
That's awesome. When was all this happening?
This was like 2012 when we started talking.
I think it was 2012, yeah. And so from the time that you got the Alter manufacturing case to the time we met was about a year. So like we went sporadically back and forth, so it wasn't like an immediate thing, but as soon as we met in person, it was like full force from day one, and it took less than a month for us to go like be ready for Kickstarter.
Yeah, so
very quick.
The lead up took a long time because I've never started a business. I didn't know that I wanted to do it. Do I want to get involved in this? I don't have that mentality. I don't know anything about manufacturing. That's why we're such a good team, is like everything that I know he doesn't, and everything that he knows I don't. Like it's like the perfect match of everything we need to build something like this. Mm-hmm. So once we actually decided to sit down in front of each other the first time and then talk about our ideas, shared our ideas, came back a week later, he went home, made a bunch of prototypes, came back, threw them out on the table. We've got a great picture of just like a pile of awesomely terrible cases.
That's great. That's awesome.
on a table at Starbucks, like an hour south of here. And that day, I think we shook hands and said, we have a company. And like by the end of that week, we were incorporated and working our way towards a Kickstarter. Once we knew really quickly that we had something. We thought at least we could do a Kickstarter and maybe make some cool cases. What it would turn into after that, we didn't know at that time, but we knew then that we had something pretty cool that we wanted to go forward with.
So you guys didn't know each other previously, really?
Oh,
no.
Zero.
So, but it was instant chemistry when you started out.
Yeah, and I think it's because we realized that like he was my missing piece.
Yeah.
Because I was able to make things, but I didn't know what those cases needed to be. I didn't know what the products needed to be for the market. And he said, well, I don't want the clips to touch. You know, this is a standard size notebook. These things are what matter to me, and these are a lot of my friends in the community and his readers were into. So without that guidance, like regardless of my ability to make things, none of it would have been made. And so I think as soon as we realized, oh wait, this doesn't exist in this capacity, but with us together, we're able to make, fill this gap in the market. It was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, and I can't make a physical product.
Right.
Like I can draw Jeff a sketch. Is this possible? But I don't have the mentality to take the drawing and say, okay, here's all the parts and the steps that need to happen to make this work in the end, which is what he does the best. I mean, I like give him a piece of paper or just an idea in my head. He comes back an hour later and goes, what do you think about this? I was like, yeah, that's where we're at. That's so the way we meshed, like I said, the things that each of us have and don't have are just such a perfect match. It's very, very strange.
That's awesome.
In a good way.
And that process still happens today. Like,
to this day.
The reason that we had some product, maybe it was the Sinclair or something, came about is because we were brainstorming one day when he was in. He's like, I really want something to hold this. And we tried it and realized that we couldn't. And I'm like, well, what about something totally different like this? And then, so we still go with that concept of him like throwing ideas out there and then we prototype it quickly. And that's a lot of the reason why we're still doing it ourselves and in this space. So.
That's awesome. How do you guys come up with the name Nock?
So that was a weird thing back to where people wanted me to make a pen. And I was like I said, I'm not going to make a pen, but I should probably have some ideas in case I ever do want to make a product. So I had a notebook, like we all do, just carried around. And, I wasn't making pretend band names for my sweet garage band. I was making like product names, like what's going to stick. I actually did put some thought into it, like, okay, what's a strong name? What's a memorable name? What's going to work in Google when someone types in certain things? I considered those things, and the only one that jumped off the page to me was Nock. And what Nock is, for those who don't know, it's not a real word, obviously. I mean, it is if you're into archery, but right. That's not a highly searchable term for that. So we don't get many mishits for people looking for archery supplies. The Japanese use a slang term for the retractable part on their pen. It's called the Nock, the clicky part, like we call a retractable pen. Like we call it the click or the clicky or whatever. Right. So we took the K off of Nock. It stuck. Jeff didn't like it at all at first. But I kind of explained where I'm coming from big picture wise. Like, this is it's not a real word, but it kind of means a little bit of something. It's a little bit related to making a pen case. It's kind of a stationary term. And he kind of nodded his head and agreed a little bit. And he said, okay, let me take this and I'll work on a logo. And he took that home, and like a few days later, he sent me an email or an image of what our Nock logo is now. And it looks like the little click on the end of the pen. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it.
And that is a sweet logo, I gotta say. It's like one of the coolest logos I've seen.
That's 100% him. That's how we're completely in each other's brains as far as, being able to work together. If I can have this, I can babble on this long conversation like we're having now. Jeff can go, and come back like 2 days later and he'll go, look. And I'll go, yep. That happens to us so often. That's when you've got a kind of good working relationship.
Exactly. I got a similar kind of thing going on with me and Rachel. Rachel's more the operational side, just like you are, Jeff, and I'm more of the pretty face, just like you are, Brad.
Oh, totally.
Yep. That's awesome. So I know you guys have pretty like American-made kind of feel, and textiles I think are something that's often very easily outsourced overseas. So how important is it for you to try to keep everything made in America here?
For Nock Co, it's important for a number of different reasons. One, we're not large enough to really get a full run of cases made overseas. It's super expensive. You have to get thousands and thousands of units. And you're not able to pay attention to quality as much as we would like to. I mean, quality has been a huge part of Nock Co since it started, and something that Brad is super into and I'm super into. And being made in America and having our own shop, we're able to just look at that on a very like minute level and make sure that every product goes out of here is not going to come back for some reason. I think that's the main reason for me.
Yeah, I mean, we put our hands on all the cases every step of the way, and that's kind of a big deal. Even if it's, you know, we're not trying to make the cheapest product on the market, you know, we're trying to make the best product on the market. We're trying to make something that puts smiles on other people's faces, and to control every step of that way, you know, and using, you know, American-made fabrics. All our, you know, our roll goods are made in America. You know, the products we use, we're obviously, I mean, we're looking at, you know, our workshop right now. We sit here and these cases are going through our hands, through these sewing machines and out to you guys. And that's super important for us to kind of be involved in that entire process, you know, to, I always say the phrase, you know, will I be able to sleep at night knowing the decisions that I've made? And you know, that's what makes me sleep soundly, knowing that we're making it all right here.
Does that create any challenges for you guys to try to keep things in the U.S.?
I mean, it does. I do think the scale is an issue. Like Jeff said, number one, you know, we'd have to order so many thousands of units, but you know what, if we did that, you know, maybe Goulet would be carrying our cases already, right?
So I do get asked about that quite a bit, I have to say.
You know, if I had 1,000 units sitting here, we'd be in retail, but it wouldn't be the same thing. It wouldn't feel like our product at that point. It's kind of I mean, it's like our baby. It's important to us. It's important that, you know, I'm staring at a case before I pack it and go, this looks great. Or if I see some little flaw, it gets thrown back into the box, the scrap box, to be repurposed for something else. It's a pretty big deal for us.
So can you take me through the process of like what it's like to actually manufacture these things?
So we go from rolled goods, which they come in either 55-yard or 80-yard rolls, depending if it's exterior or interior, cut on a giant cutting machine that has a 40-foot long bed, and then we bring that to the shop and we start processing that material. So it goes through a number of steps, like the hem on our high tower, you know, the manufacturing of like the small processes, like making the flaps for the high tower is something that we'll just do like hundreds of those at a time, because we have to stitch both sides, turn them inside out, then top stitch them, then they can go on the case. So it's like pretty labor intensive piece, and all it is this little flap. And so they slowly work through our process and the different machines.
We don't allow Brad to touch the machines.
Brad doesn't touch the machines. Brad breaks the machines, because when we were getting ready for the Atlanta Pen Show, he was like, "Oh, what needs done? We just need to, you know, let me help out." And I'm like, "Oh, this stuff just needs bar tacked. It's one pedal. All you have to do is hit one pedal, and then it does the stitch, and it's perfect." And I get a text not long after, "Broke the bar tacker. Gonna get lunch." Awesome. So it's there's one of the things that we're able to do because of my experience in soft goods is we have older machines so I can fix them, which is also a huge money and time saver, because we don't have to bring the broken bar tacker to a shop, have it repaired, and then bring it back. We don't have that much downtime. But once everything is assembled, then we have to clean off any chalk marks or marks that we make through the production process, and then package and ship to you.
Yeah, I think the kind of the big takeaway is that these aren't running through like some kind of automated factory machine robot system. I was like, we're hand marking where these lines need to be stitched with a piece of chalk in our hand and a piece of cardboard that we've cut out to our exact dimensions. That's like the guideline for this stuff.
We upgraded to plastic.
we were going through too many cardboard markers. And then, you know, every stitch is run through these machines by hand. It's actually a very labor intensive process, from just the design. Then Jeff has to digitize the pattern for like a single case might have 6 separate panels. Well, he's got to fit that puzzle piece to send it out to be cut in the right dimensions. Then we get all those puzzle pieces back. They have to be sorted, organized, and gone through a system in a certain way. It's quite the process, but it's something we enjoy doing, being involved completely in that process, and I hope that shows up in the end result.
So since you guys are manufacturing everything kind of in-house here, how do you come up with the designs? What's that process like?
One or two of us will start with a problem. I mean, we all try to solve problems when we're doing this, right? I mean, I have a pen that doesn't fit this case, or we want this notebook to kind of fit differently in what we're doing. So either I'll have a sketch, or Jeff will come up with a sketch, and we'll throw it at the other one. What do you think about this idea? And we'll kind of collaborate from that point. Okay, what about this? Do this. That's not going to fit in that part. And then Jeff will jump on the floor down here with a bunch of rulers and chalk and start slicing up fabric on the floor, which is pretty cool. And then you just take it from there.
And it goes from the sketch, which are terribly rudimentary because he and I are not artists in any way. But it's like little line drawings with maybe this is where a pen goes, and it's not true to size. It's like a little thumbnail thing. Yeah. And then we just start working, and that's what happened with we introduced our blue label at this show, which is a cool new thing for us. And that's exactly how it started out, because we were talking about trying to add some special stuff for the customers, and it just started as this little idea of an envelope, and then it turned into a cool thing.
And that's the other part about keeping it all in house is we can do that in an hour.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't have to send it. We're not calling overseas, sending them some file. Can you make us one of these so we can test it and play around with? That's just a brutal process.
Yeah, I can't understand doing that with this.
So then that's how we'd have to work. We'd have 3 products all the time, and that's all anyone ever gets.
Yep.
We couldn't function like that. We like to innovate and have fun and try and fail. Fail's cool.
Yeah,
that's a good answer
too.
No
problem with that.
And we couldn't do that if we weren't, doing it all ourselves. So.
And I actually like to touch on that a little bit, because when you're prototyping and stuff like that, I know not everything is a smash hit. So what are some of the most interesting failures that you've had in your design testing?
So yeah, definitely we tried a 2-pen holder once, which was terrible. Yeah. And then we started with a 1-pen sleeve. Yeah,
it's a complete catastrophe for us to make something smaller than what we make. It's really, really difficult. People want, one of our best sellers is the Lookout. It's a 3-pen holster, and it's awesome. I mean, I'm not going to lie, we killed that design. I mean, it's perfect. People say, okay, you did 3, you can just make it 2, or you can just make it 1. I want to carry those. Those are so impossible to make in that size. The way we work, we're not a robot factory. We don't do that type of work. And to take a smaller format product, we could probably, as much time and effort to go in that, it would have to sell for more
than the Lookout.
We sell our bigger products for, because it's so labor intensive. So we've tried that so many times and failed so many times, we just had to give up on it.
Yeah.
So it was that's one thing we've always wanted. I've wanted it. Our customers want it. It's not going to happen.
I'm pretty sure that everybody would quit if they had to turn little 1-pen holders inside out.
Yeah.
Because with the nylon, it's a totally different process than working with something that's unlined, like leather. So most of our products have at least one step where they have to be turned from us processing it, which is inside out, to outside in, or inside out the other way. And it's really labor intensive, because preparing for the show, we had, 100 brass towns to turn inside out. And so that's Brad ended up taking them home. You've got to clean them all and then just flip them inside out, make sure the corners are nice. And it's a frustrating process.
It's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what we
we have to do that.
We have to do that. That's how it's done. I mean, there's no option, because we're not going to ship products that haven't met that. So
just get $5 discount if you turn in the case inside out yourself. Just mail it to people.
We're going to start that.
I'm sure some people would probably go for that, actually.
They probably would. I guarantee that.
Yeah. So, obviously your cases, I think, kind of stand out, because most pen cases out there are leather. And as well as the price point, that I would imagine, working in nylon is cheaper than leather. But why did you guys settle on nylon?
There's a huge gap in the market, to be perfectly honest. I'm coming from a time with fountain pens and things like that, to where there's some pretty cool modern stuff on the market. And there's a little bit of a perception, well, the vintage pens, they all live in these leather cases, and you spend all this money on a pen, and it should kind of belong in this leather case that costs $100 or $125, and that's not where I'm at or where I was at in what pens I was buying didn't correlate with the things I wanted to store them in. Right. And then also on that same kind of wavelength, like I'm carrying a backpack every day or a messenger bag, and this kind of style kind of fits better with that. So you look around, you're like, okay, I love this messenger bag. What kind of pouch can I carry my pens in that would kind of work with that? Nothing, we have zero against leather. Maybe we'll do leather one day. But, okay, what's going to work with what I'm carrying right now, with the type of pens I'm carrying, with the other bags that I'm carrying that I can put these things in? And you go online and there's nothing there. There's no options. There's a few. I mean, you can get some cheaper, less quality, thinner, flimsier stuff, but nothing with nothing that ever fit that complete need. And then we decided right out the gate, we're not going to be able to accomplish that in leather. We didn't want to hit that price point in leather, and we didn't want that aesthetic.
Yeah, well, I think your website, The Pen Addict, really, it helps people get introduced to pens in a meaningful and with a lot of longevity in the hobby, right? And so they start with $20 pens.
Yeah.
So they have to buy a $120 case to put that in. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And we were able to do it, even from our first meeting when we started to put together numbers and production times, that we could compete with the international market in nylon cases, that kind of, for the basic patterns, that sub $50 range, where we're really able, but we were able to increase the quality of the case. Because, again, Brad said there are some out there that are a little cheaper, but they just don't hold up as well over time. And with the way the world is now in the internet age, everybody has a personal aesthetic. And there was something missing for the aesthetic that Brad and I had.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about, when we're thinking about making a company, I thought about all these businessy things, is there a hole in the market? Would it fit? All that. But the most important thing was I couldn't find anything that I wanted to use. That's it. It came down to that. And fortunately, other people wanted that same thing too.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty good for that. So.
And you guys have put some pretty wild colors too. I know for me, it's leather, it's all right, it's black or it's brown or some variation of brown. I mean, obviously it's a natural material,
Sure.
You have to deal with that. But the colors, I think, are just what make it so outstanding. So what are some of the most popular colors that you guys find?
We do really good with the bright stuff. I mean, we like to have fun. We're not going to keep it, old and stodgy and just do black and gray cases and just that's all we ever do. I mean, we want to have fun doing this. I mean, I like to say we don't take ourselves too seriously. I mean, we're serious from a business perspective, but we want the fun to come through in that. So having a case that's it's bright, the brightest traffic cone orange with the brightest blue in the center. When people open that up, they're like, oh, this is a thing. And we're like, yeah, and they'll go, give me two.
And I think it's also because, like you said, Brian, that there's limited availability of colors in leather cases, right? So we have the ability, because we're going with the synthetic material, to do all kinds of crazy things. And it's fun to kind of flex that creative muscle in that way. And it's a forgiving material too. We had a customer yesterday at the show come by and say, I've been carrying this Lookout with me for a year. And he was holding it up to the same color case and they looked the same.
Well, a new one that we were selling on the table, he picked it up. Here's the one I bought a year ago. And if you just told someone else, check out these cases, they would think it was the exact same, literally a brand new product. They wear well. Yeah. But it also goes back to that personal aesthetic. When everyone's shopping online these days, and if I want a cool bag or a cool shirt, I'm gonna go troll around online till I find it. And with leather, there's not much trolling around with it. You know what you're gonna get. as far as style and color.
Yeah.
There's not.
You choose what stamp from the maker you want on it. That's
Right.
pretty much
Right.
it in the pen industry.
Yeah, and with us, we want to give people other, like cool color options and crazy looks. And Brian, I know you're a fan of the pink and the blue pen. That stuff sells like hotcakes, and we love it. We carry that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not throwing colors out there that we think, oh, we got to get this market because we're going to do this color. That's in my pocket. I mean, it's no joke. We're not gonna do anything just for like some kind of random money grab. We do it because we think it's cool.
Yeah, and I've also we've only made one black product.
Yep.
Like I'm kind of against black because I think gray should be the black. Like it's just a better looking material. You don't lose it as much. But we've only done one black, and that was like a collaboration and really limited.
Yeah,
so.
It's funny at the pen shows, and we've seen this before, and I've seen it this weekend. We put all this color out on our table, which you don't see everywhere else, and people who aren't familiar with our products, they'll come by and look at these. They go, oh, this is really bright. Can I stick it in my purse? Can I stick it in my backpack? Yeah. Oh, I can see where it is in my bag. And they're like, this is exactly what I need.
Our table has the bug zapper effect.
Love it. I love it. So you guys have had some success now. I think it's you've gotten past the point of like trying to figure out how to make a valid business. I would say you've pretty much proven yourselves at this point. But now I can say, like from my own personal experience, the next step is just as challenging, but in a different way. So you guys have to figure out, okay, you've got a lot of opportunities now. You got some success, you got a track record. So for you guys, what does success look like from this point? Like, where do you want to go in the next, like, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years, like job interview style here? But no, really, like, what's kind of the end goal for Nock?
I mean, we want to continue. The only thing we don't have in-house right now is a cutting machine. So we're hitting some growth issues. I mean, everyone kind of knows that right now. So we want to add things like a cutting machine and add more people to continue to grow. We want to, I say it all the time, we want to have less zeros in the inventory. It's a good problem to have because every time Jeff and I like ramp stuff up, we make concerted efforts, we're selling out of things, and we're going to say we're going to do this to make all this more stuff. Yeah. But as we grow, our customer base has grown too.
I know.
So they just hammer it as soon as we make it, and we're like, we feel like we're doing the right thing.
Right.
Like we're making like an obscene amount of cases, more than we've ever made before, and they sell out even quicker. So we're gonna have to take steps coming like in the early summer to really focus on streamlining our product line, focusing on particular cases to get out faster, hiring new employees, adding more sewing machines. I'm talking about a cutting machine. We already have the space in the shop to like, when this comes in, we're ready to plug that baby in and start running fabric through that thing, so we can start getting more panels and train new people to get them in. So our next like 6 months of focus is that. So we're going to be really trying to ramp up production. We really been focusing on this pen show for probably since January, just because our cases aren't like, it's not a 30-minute process to make a pen case. It's a lot of work, and you got to do it in bulk. So we have to plan really, really far ahead to get that stuff done. So adding people, adding machinery is like super, super high on the list. It's coming soon, and then we'll see where that takes us. We hope to hit those inventories. We hope to get out into retail. There's someone might be interested in that.
Maybe a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, that might be part of the motive for shooting this video. Maybe a little goodwill, a little brownie points, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's no joke. I mean, we have to get there. I mean, we don't have an option at this point. The business is going great. There's no doubt. The growth potential is massive. We have to deliver on that, and that's what we're working on in the next 6 months, I'd say.
And the hardest thing is, when we touch on it some, is people are touching this. And so as new machines come in and new people come in, like the new people have to be skilled enough to make our product at the level that we want. And if they're not, then we have to replace them and start the training over. And then once that team is in place, like we still have to train so everybody knows how to work everything, because, we also have families and we can't always be here, and everybody has something else going on. So like everybody has to be able to do it all.
Yeah. So that's the 6 month plan.
Right.
The 3 to 5 year plan.
Do you even have one at this point? It's like.
I mean, I think in the back of our head we understand if we can nail what we're about to do, that there's larger space in our future. There's, do we buy a space with manufacturing in the back and a shop in the front where people can actually come by, like a retail establishment kind of thing? Obviously not something huge, but just you have that little opportunity.
Yeah.
Are you choosing a location because, okay, maybe we'll have foot traffic, but we still have all this manufacturing in the back. And it's just, we see that kind of 3 and 5 year thing down the line. We see the possibility of that kind of thing happening. It could definitely happen, but it's just, making more better, and continuing to be awesome. I think.
The biggest thing is once we get through this next step, scaling is going to be easier because there's going to be less investment financially. It's more time investment at that point. But it's like, this is the big hurdle because it's not a small amount of money to get a cutting machine, and material is super expensive. So to buy enough material to do a full run of colors, even with a more succinct offering, it's expensive. It's, but we have to buy it in such large quantities so we can keep the product, like the end product, at a reasonable cost.
And one thing I've noticed, with people who start out in small manufacturing and then they get a little bit bigger, especially if they're starting on a Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a great way, and I know you guys have had success with Kickstarters, of getting the business rolling, and then you got to kind of go from there. When you get to, from manufacturing and selling direct yourself, and then you get to the retailing side of things, there's obviously logistics involved in there and things like that. Are you anticipating you're going to have to raise your prices when you get to that point, or have you guys kind of factored that in to your existing pricing?
So we built the company around a pricing model that would allow us to stay in business and go into retail at the same time.
Yep,
so
was always
we considered that from the very beginning, which I'm very thankful that we did that. So, and that's one of the things. Our prices are really good.
Yeah.
For what we put into it, what
They
we
really
make.
are.
I think they're
They're
really
very
good.
fair.
We're absolutely going to raise prices on a couple of our products. That's coming. It's just the nature of what's happening. It's been 3 years. Our prices haven't changed in 3 years. It's just the nature of the business and the time and the effort that it goes into it. It's not going to be a full product line price increase, but there's a couple of products that we're just going to have to charge more for. And it's marginal. It's still a good value. We're never going to be the $125 case company. No. That's not our style.
$25 backpack company, though. I'm not hating that idea.
That's another conversation so that's in the 3 to 5 year plan is maybe those larger products. We want that to happen. From before our original Starbucks days.
Because
we could make a backpack eventually, couldn't we? So we'd have those conversations. But yeah, that's just part of growing any business. There's going to be some give and take, and there's just some things you have to do to continue to grow the business, and raising prices on a couple of items as we continue to go. It's just flat out going to happen.
Yeah, and you guys are talking about backpacks and other things. For me, I don't know that much about the actual process of sewing and all that kind of stuff. Is sewing is sewing is sewing? Is it just as easy to design a backpack as it is a pen case?
So design and sewing are two different things. You can teach somebody to sew a straight line and they can continually sew a straight line. If they do it well, they do it well. But to design a good backpack is a totally different undertaking. You're talking about a lot of different prototypes, a lot of testing. Like we have a folio that we've been teasing for probably close to a year now, but it's because we really want it to be right. Like I don't want to do version 2 on this stuff. Like we don't have Lookout version 2. That doesn't exist, and it won't because we took the time to create the product properly the first time. And that's really important to us. And if we started on a backpack next week, it's still in 3 to 5 year plan. Like it's going to take us that long to get it to where we want it and make sure that it's functional for our current customers. It approaches new customers in an appropriate way, and that it's a Nock Co product. Like we don't want to make a JanSport. We don't want to make a Topo Designs bag. So it's a different process that is very time consuming.
Yeah, it really is. And even us prototyping a pen case for like a year, you say that out loud to like our customers, they're like, "You're joking, right?" And we're like, "Absolutely not, we're joking. When is this case coming?" We're like, 6 to 9 months and we already have 6 months into it.
Yeah.
That's how it works. I mean, that's how this type of business runs.
Yeah.
We're a manufacturer. You know, we have to get this stuff right.
Yeah.
If we don't get it right, that's going to bite us 2 years down the line, and that's not something as a business our size can afford.
Right.
So we take the time, take the effort to get it right up front, and hopefully we nail it. You know, that's kind of the plan.
And that's one cool thing to see. I think with kind of in the last few years, the rise of some smaller manufacturers like Twisby and Karis Customs and you guys, I think people are seeing like the veil lifted a little bit on kind of the business side of things. And one thing I've been really interested in as a retailer is being able to get to kind of see inside all these different aspects of business. And the more I see on the manufacturing side of things, the more empathetic I am about timelines and delays and things like that, because you realize just how many things have to go right in order for a product to even ever exist, let alone be in stock all the time when everybody wants it. So I know that was part of the motivation for shooting this very video, is for you guys to be able to kind of show a little bit about what you have going on here. And I just think that's really cool. And one other thing I wanted to touch on too, we mentioned leather earlier. I've got some experience with leather pen cases, and specifically with pens. I think I find that most leather makers are making things like bags and coats and things like that, and the pens are literally just like this afterthought. It's like scraps that are coming afterwards. So that's why we see inconsistencies with color and sizing and stitching, because it's literally like it's an afterthought for them. I don't know anyone who's really focusing on making pen cases first.
I'm over here dying and trying not to say things because Jeff gets texts and images from me with not pretty language in it. Look at what these people are making. It makes my blood boil. Some of the products I see that people are like, this is amazing, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't sleep tonight because of what I just saw on my computer screen. We're obviously in this industry because it's not an afterthought for us. It's the primary thought, and how the things function and all work together and carry together. That's a big deal for us. But Jeff gets some nasty texts from me, just from me raging on other things I see on the market. Not like anyone in our market, but just in general. Yeah. Because we focus on, we're obviously looking at other designs and for future planning and things like that, because we have to be so far ahead of the game. So we're always sharing, collaborating. What do we see out there that someone's doing cool, and even what someone's not doing cool. Like I'll send Jeff a picture says we're never doing this.
But I think that's because, like, with the rise of internet business, a lot of the companies that boast about their design are just marketing companies, right? Like, so they're not focusing on the products that they're making; they're focusing on the words that are accompanying those products.
And how many buttons can we jam to sell how many
and zippers
items?
And look at all of this cool stuff. Look at folds, and it does nothing.
We have opinions or two.
They're not mine.
Well, and I think that's what's so cool too is, like, Brad, you come into this pen case thing with such a knowledge of somebody like from the pen world. You know, like, you are part of the community, very much a driver in the community. So I think you can really tell the difference when you have like a bag company that designs a pen thing. They're like, oh, whatever, we'll just, if you can stick a pen in it, you know, but then you're like, oh, well, half the fountain pens don't fit in this thing. Like, this is not a functional product. But you come in and you bring kind of that understanding.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit lucky from that standpoint that I've been doing it a while. I understand what I like, and fortunately what I like translates, somewhat to what, the consumer doesn't know necessarily when they purchase it, but they realize after they've used it that, hey, this actually really worked exactly how I was thinking it should work. Like, they may not know it going into purchasing it, but hopefully we've had those thoughts and things while we're building it ahead of time, to where they don't have any friction when they're using these products. They just use it, it works, and what you think you can do with it, actually, the minute you think it, okay, it delivers on it, instead of having to kind of, how do I use this thing? So yeah, that's super. The usability factor is important, and being so specific on what we're creating for helps with that.
And I think my favorite example of this is, a lot of people carry around our Hightower case, which holds 3 pens and then a pocket notebook. And everybody always, or not everybody, we've gotten comments over the years of like, well, I really wish this had a closure. but they never carry anything else, right? So they're still carrying our product, even though they're like, I wish it had a closure, but this is the best product in this form on the market for me. And I think that we purposefully didn't do that for our Kickstarter because the added manufacturing time. But we haven't changed it because we're just happy with the design, and it's okay that it doesn't have a closure. We now have the Sinclair, which is an option for that, but even with the complaints, I think people understand that everything we say it does exactly how it should.
Yeah, and we're pretty clear that we'll tell somebody, no, we won't put that on our case. Whatever that specific thing is, like, you know, the customer feedback really helps drive these products. And, you know, but sometimes not every idea is the best idea to put on a case because of functionality and other uses. It's got to work for everybody, and you know, getting that across is sometimes, well, you have to say, well, no, we're never going to do that. And people are like taken aback a little bit. It's because it's really not going to work.
Yeah, it's not going to work at all. And I think a lot of people come from like, this would be very helpful to me. And I understand, like, we have a customer, the last 2 years he's come to the pen show and he's like, I really wish there was a belt loop on the back of the Lookout. And it's like, you're the only person that asked for that, so it's not going to happen, but you can hand stitch one on. Like, and we've had people, like customers, modify our cases to fit their use cases, which is awesome. Like, I love seeing pictures of that because I want to see people love the product and realize that they can do something to it to make it a little more specific for their own life.
Yeah, it's not odd to see customers that love our case that have ripped out the stitching and sent us a picture of it and like, I made this awesomer, but they still like love the original product, and we're like, that is really cool. It's cool to see that happen. That happens a lot.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it so much. This has been a fantastic interview. I really appreciate your time that you've taken here on an already really busy weekend. So that's really awesome. It's great to get to see your place. Gives me a great perspective, and sharing that with the whole pen community. So it's been really fantastic. So as we kind of close it out here, tell us a little bit about like where people can find you, how they can follow you, how they can buy your stuff.
So they can get us online at nockco.com, and if you're not one to type as much, you can type nock.co as well. We're on Instagram, Nock Co, everywhere, Facebook, wherever you want to find us. We send us pictures, tweet at us at Nock Co. We like to have fun, talk to our customers, see what everyone's doing.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. And it'll be available soon at gouletpens.com, right?
Yeah. Look for us soon at your favorite retailers.
We're hoping. I'm really driving hard trying to get them to do it. I know.
We're just going to go visit, right?
Yeah.
So Nock Co will be at Goulet Pens. We'll just come up to Virginia and visit.
That sounds great.
You're
welcome
count?
anytime.
Yeah.
Does that count for you guys having us there?
Well, you know what? We'll talk. We'll talk. Maybe I'll hold this video hostage for you, and then until we. I'm just kidding. Wouldn't do that. But anyway, thanks so much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brad.
Glad you came. This was awesome.
Yeah, very cool. I would love your feedback on it, on this video, and then on the Nock products as well. So you can leave comments on YouTube or on our blog. And then you can follow Nock, you can follow Goulet Pens. We're all over the place too, just like these guys. So just search for us on all the various places. So it's been wonderful. Thanks so much, guys, again. Appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, be sure to do that because we're going to have more interviews and stuff like this, and then other awesome videos for all of you fountain pen nuts. So thanks so much, and right on.